The Biel Chess Festival takes place from the 18th to the 31st of July this year, taking place in a few days' time. This is one of the great traditional tournaments of the summer chess calendar. There are so many events taking place there. Got blitz tournaments, rapid tournaments, open tournaments for different levels, and at the top there is the Grandmaster Tournament, and well, this has been taking place for years and always attracts a very interesting entry. In the past we've had Magnus Carlsen playing. I can think back to 1976 where there was the incredible interzonal tournament. Anyway, this year we have an interesting cast of players. 6-player, double round, all play all. Michael Adams from England is playing. He's had some very good results recently. We have Radoslav Wojtaszek, Viswanathan Anand second, who is playing. We have Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, who's won the previous 2 Biel tournaments. We have Pavel Elyanov, who's a real stalwart of the Ukrainian chess team. We have David Navarre from the Czech Republic, a very exciting attacking player. He won the silver medal in the European Individual Championship. And we have the youngest player in the tournament, Richard Rapport from Hungary, 19 years old, and he's such an exciting prospect, very unorthodox player. And well, I'd like to show you one of his games. It's which will hopefully demonstrate kind of very unusual chess that he plays. You can never even predict his first move. Sometimes e4, sometimes d4. Lately he's been playing b3 a lot. But on this occasion, I should say this was played in the Gibraltar tournament just a few months ago, and he's playing an Israeli international master, Elon Nakar. So, Rapport with the white pieces. Now, it's the Winnower variation, and Rapport plays this very simple system. In fact, I recommended this system on one of my DVDs, an attacking repertoire with 1e4. And I like this system very much, I have to say, and because I'd recommended this system, that's why this game caught my eye. The idea is that although the pawn structure is symmetrical, basically white can get the initiative because his pieces are simply better placed than black's. So, starting with this bishop, this is on its best diagonal, but that bishop on b4, now the pawns have been exchanged, actually doesn't do much. It doesn't really want to take on c3. c6 from black, well, that's not a bad move. Prepares in some circumstances to bring the bishop back to d6, and then the d5 pawn is covered. Now knight e2 is possible, knight f3, but Rapport plays an unusual move, h3. Normally I don't like these little pawn moves at the side of the board. It's an interesting idea. One is that perhaps it's just preparing knight f3 and it prevents the pin. Okay, that's possible. The other idea is that actually it's also preparing the queen to come to f3. So for example, after knight e7, if knight e7, then queen f3 will prevent the bishop coming to f5, and the queen takes up an aggressive position before you play knight e2. Or indeed, after knight f6, queen f3 works very well, and you don't have to worry about bishop g4. So the idea is, yeah, to play queen f3 before knight e2. I suppose the question is, could white have played queen f3 straight away? Well, you could, but queen f6 is a good response. And it's just a bit dull, because white probably would have to trade the queens, or allow a trade of queens. So h3 is, it's a useful move, but it's almost like a waiting move, actually. Anyway, black decides to play queen f6 himself. Knight f3, so at least there's no bishop g4. Queen not badly placed on f6. In fact, this is an aggressive way for black to play, an ambitious way, I should say. So he wants to trade off his bad bishop for white's very good bishop on d3. The only problem is it's a little bit time consuming. And let's see how Rapport manages to exploit that. So black has the same problem. Bishop g5 is actually a bit annoying. So he plays h6, but of course that uses up even more time, and now you can see that white's lead in development is starting to be a little bit uncomfortable. Bishop f4 is perhaps a little bit unexpected, because at first glance it looks as though bishop takes d3 is a problem. But Rapport has this under control. He played bishop e5, a nice little intermezzo. The queen goes back. And now another unexpected move from white. Of course, you could play queen takes d3, but Rapport has spotted a nice little idea. He played pawn takes bishop, positionally incredibly ugly. I can imagine a lot of players that simply wouldn't even consider this move in their thoughts. The idea is that out of the blue, the diagonal is opened up for the queen. So the threat is to play there. For example, if knight f6, you play queen b3, and okay, black can hold off for a moment, but after a3, bishop takes, you take on b7. Nice idea. And at the same time as queen b3 being a threat, so it's bishop takes g7. So black has a few problems. He tried f6, hitting the bishop came back. And now if knight e7, then queen b3 is still pretty annoying. So for that reason, black exchanged on c3 first, anticipating pawn takes bishop. But Rapport's antennae was twitching and he'd spotted this move. So the idea is that now the queen will leap out in this direction. It's extraordinary. He spotted a weakness here on this diagonal. Now if the bishop retreats, then this check is very nasty. The king can't actually escape. You can see that bishop slices across. The king has to go back and queen g7 and white wins. Desperate. And if knight e7, well, you give a check and recapture. So already very pleasant for white. Black tried g5. An interesting idea. Of course, if the knight moves, then the bishop moves away, but queen check, knight g6, so this is forced sequence, and knight takes bishop, knight takes rook, and bishop a5. Now black's idea in doing this was that the knight is trapped on h8, more or less. Can try to get out via g6 or f7, but it's not really working. So black is trying to recover his material, but it's white's move, and he has various options here. One option is just to play f4 and just blast through. It's not bad. But Rapport found a really beautiful idea. b4. Okay, first things first. Well, the pawn was taking the game, but if the bishop just drops back, now the rook is able to come to e1 without being captured. And the threat is simply rook e8. And if knight d7, then the knight escapes, because the queen no longer has e8 to pin the knight, and the knight is going to bounce out round here, and, well, white is the exchange up and has a winning attack. So that's no good. So black took this, okay, but now, after the check, you take on b7 and two pieces are attacked. It's extraordinary. I'll tell you what, this queen is working overtime. It's extraordinary, threatening out there, and suddenly it's bounced around here. It's an incredible game. Well, black limped on with knight a6, but actually he could resign this game. White is simply the exchange up with no complications at all. His king is completely safe, and now it's just a question of breaking through to black's king, which Rapport did with great efficiency. Rook b7, well, you can see white is just going to attack along the 7th rank and give mate. Black tried to defend, and one last little tactic to finish. Bishop c7, and after this he took the bishop, and that wins even more material as the queen is attacked, and here black resigned. Very unorthodox play from Rapport, and I'm really looking forward to commentating on this event. I'm going to be there for the first week, commentating live from Biel, so do join me. I'll be on playchess.com, and yeah, you'll be able to check out live commentary on the Biel Grandmaster Tournament.